I teased her with Cuddle claws. Now she's my co-pilot, stealing my warmth every night. Dockside, the joke that stuck. The hangar lights at Borealis Outpost always made everything look colder than it was. Rows of freighters glittering with frost, crew in steam-breathing masks, the skin sting of recycled air. I was checking the Peregrine's folly for micro-fissures when she arrived. A lean silhouette with a fox-bright gaze and a tail tucked close for warmth. Yara of the Vulpin clans. We'd crossed paths twice, both times with me making the same dumb joke. Careful with those, I had said before, pointing to the retractable heat pads on her gloves. Cuddle claws. The first time she'd squinted at me like I was speaking in static. The second time she'd bared a polite smile. Now, with a board job promising triple salvage on an ice-locked derelict beyond the Helix gap, I needed a co-pilot, and she needed a ship. Cuddle claws, I said again because bad habits die loud. She didn't smile. We don't cuddle for fun, she said. We share heat to survive. Right, I said, heat rising in my ears. Then you in. She studied the Peregrine's patched belly, the burn-scrubbed hull. If your ship lives up to your mouth. Yes. Pre-flight, a real apology. I met her apology for my joke with one of my own, a spare pair of thermal gauntlets I'd modified. The pads pulse gentle warmth, tuned to Vulpin basal temps. Not claws, I said. A handshake that knows when to let go. Yara turned them in the light, and something in her shoulders uncoiled. You calibrated these for me. For us, I corrected. Co-pilots. She slid into the right-hand chair, tail flicking as the harness tightened. Diagnostics rolled green across the canopy. Engines thrummed. We rose on a column of cold fire and left the hangar behind. Transit, the cold between stars. Past the beacon chain the Helix winds began. Ribbons of ion drift that twisted sensor returns into origami. The Peregrine bucked and Yara's hands flashed, one on thruster trim, the other riding the haptic dial like a musician finding a hidden melody. Follow the quiet in the noise, she murmured, eyes half-lidded. I let her lead. The Peregrine steadied. The glass went from jitter to silk. I exhaled and the cabin fogged for a beat. Then the heater coughed into silence. Oh, I said. Primary thermal loop just choked. Temperature fell like a trapdoor. My teeth tapped. Yara's gaze flicked to me. Without ceremony she unlatched, crossed the narrow space, and pressed her gauntlets to the seams of my suit, sealing us together. The pads came alive. Heat diffusing through fabric, warmth rethreading my nerves. You're warm, I said, brilliant as a comet. This is what the claws are for, she said. Not teasing. Trust. I swallowed my reply and felt the old loneliness in me. Hangared like an unused shuttle, shift in its moorings. The derelict, a ship named Hearth. We found her where the coordinates promised. A skimmer called Hearth in a slow tumble around a blue-white shard of ice. Her hull was scabbed with frost and pitted by micrometeors, but her belly cargo bay looked sealed. Automated sentries. Yes. If they're still alive, they'll be hungry, Yara said. We matched tumble and kissed the docking ring. The hatch cycled sluggishly. Our lights cut a corridor through floating ice dust. Inside the bay, the cold was older than language. Crates labeled with agricultural logos drifted. Seeds, soil inoculants, little sleeping futures. A trio of sentinel drones woke from their corners, tines glowing. Down! I shouted, but Yara was already moving, a dancer through low gravity, gauntlets flaring brief halos as she palmed a drone's torque spine and shorted it clean. I snagged another with the tether and slammed it into a bulkhead. The third came for my throat, its tines hissing, Yara's tail looped my arm, yanked me aside, and her glove kissed the drone's eye. Dark. Silence. We drifted, breathing hard. "You all right, pilot?" she asked. I nodded, heart hammering. "You saved my hide." "You owe me warmth," she said, and it wasn't a threat so much as a promise to survive. The run down the Helix. We netted the seed crates and burned for home. The Helix winds had shifted ugly. Lightning spidered across the canopy, harmless but loud. The Peregrine's batteries groaned. In the turbulence, a microfracture in a coolant pipe blossomed. Red runes cascaded down the right console. "Reactor's staging a tantrum," I said. "Manual restart." Yara blinked at the schematic. "Two-person lockout." "Old ship," I said. "Old rules." We pulled the floor plates, dropped into the crawlspace that smelled of ozone and old metal. The restart demanded a thermal handshake, 2 matched heat signatures completing a loop so the ship could trust we weren't panicked idiots. We pressed our gauntlets together inside the couplers, palms to palms through warm pads. The circuit chimed. "Ready?" "Yes." "Ready," she said and squeezed. I squeezed back. The reactor counted down, then surged, a deep whale song through the bones of the Peregrine. The light steadied. Temperature rose. In the crawlspace, face close to hers, I saw the ice rim around her eyes thaw to something like mirth. "So," I said, because I talk when I'm terrified, "about those Cuddle." "Call them that again," she said softly, "and you'll owe me more blankets." "Deal," I whispered, grinning in the dark. Return, a different kind of contract. Borealis Outpost greeted us with a warm green of cleared docking. We sold the seed stock to a colonial co-op for a fair cut and 2 extra heater cores. The dockmaster tried to lowball us. Yara stared through him until his calculator found more compassion. We shared noodles in a corner stall, steam fogging the windows. A trio of miners argued about cards at the next table. Yara slurped, then tilted her head at me. "You fly like you're prepared to be alone," she said. "Maybe I was," I answered. "Before a co-pilot taught my ship to listen." Her tail flicked against my boot, like a question mark turned into an underline. "I have another route," I said. "Longer. Meaner. Hazard pay. Needs 2 people. I want them to be us." She set her bowl down with ceremony. "My people say you don't choose the one who warms you. You notice them. That is all." "I noticed you." The world outside the window blurred into a watercolor of lights and motion. Inside, everything felt simple. Nights, the quiet after. We signed the contract on a stained tablet and moved her kit aboard the Peregrine. She threaded charms above the NAV screen. Copper leaves, a fragment of glass from a dead moon, a loop of braided wire that rang when the ship thrummed at certain frequencies. That first night out again, we fell asleep shoulder to shoulder in the cramped bunk. Heater humming just enough. In the small hours, a draft slipped through some forgotten seam, and she rolled closer without waking, tail finding the hollow of my knee, gauntlet hands soft at my ribs, warmth pooling between us like stacked blankets. "Yara," I murmured. Her ear flicked, but she didn't stir. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the ship breathe, to her breathe, to the old loneliness finally unclench. Maybe I had teased. Maybe I hadn't understood. But here in the deep cold between stars, I'd learned the lesson those Cuddle claws were built to teach. That survival and tenderness aren't rivals. They're the same switch, flipped by trust. In the morning, I woke to find my co-pilot already in her chair, charting a path through a field of invisible currents, her charms singing softly. She looked back and gave me a small, conspiratorial smile. "Ready, pilot." "Always," I said, buckling in beside her. We lifted into the bright dark, two warm points in a cold universe, and every night after that, she stole my warmth like it was our oldest tradition, and I let her gladly.